Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
The needs of working families and the middle class, not just the billionaire class. We know what's going on. We are paying attention.
Good morning, everybody. I know I said we weren't actually going to do this again, and I lied. Oh, there. I just took myself off screen and put Laura on screen. I'm just all over the place this morning. Jesus. YouTube is giving me a weird error. You guys actually seeing this? YouTube right now is telling me we've got problems. Let me know. Oh, nope. YouTube just changed its mind. Now we're going. Love YouTube. We're going to talk about so much today. So much. But we're not going to talk about the main thing, UHM changing. All right. We're going to talk about midterm elections first. We're going to introduce some of our guests. The card is just a testament to the awesomeness of Nancy Pelosi, right? I mean, if the Dawn is going to back Nancy, I'm just going to leave it at that. We have with us Amos, Elroy, and Laura Livengood this morning. Thank you guys for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So what did you lie about last week? I actually didn't watch the show when I was
I think
gone.
I said I wasn't going to do this show anymore, and I
you did?
can't remember. I don't know.
Well, I didn't even get that memo, so I'm glad to hear that.
The butt hurt was flowing, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I know.
And good morning, everybody. Thank you for bearing with it. We figured things out. Took a week, but it's good to have. We've got 18 and climbing here. Hi, everybody. We've got Melissa and Jeff and Barbara and Ima. Hey, Ima. It's been a long time. What else is here? Oh, obviously, Laura in the chat. One of our employees and prime supporters. Thank you, Laura. Live and good. Who was at a bad... You were in Colorado last weekend, right?
Yeah, I was in Colorado. We had a beautiful 62-degree day, and then we had 38 degrees and sideways snow on Sunday. I got the full range.
Awesome.
I have to say, after working with you for like 2.5 years now, I know that that usually you will come back and find a reason to hang out with us because we're so cool.
That's it. Yeah. I was just a little butthurt. And Amos is joining us from New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Right now in Pennsylvania, but in general, yes.
Oh, you're in Pennsylvania right now. So how's the East Coast weather for you?
Well, it's kind of cold.
Yeah, we have two extremes in our country right now, West and East Coast. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Very hot and very cold, yes.
Yeah. Hey, human. Good to see you, too. Hey, Deanna. Nice to see you. Schultze? Marcus.
Schultze is happy today. Hi, Schultze.
What are you doing, Marcus? How are you here? You should be sleeping. I can't believe it. Everybody just say hi to Marcus. Give him a virtual hug.
Marcus.
Hi, Marcus.
He's been trying to take care of his mom and dealing with stuff, and also really spending a lot of time playing Fallout 76 with me. But that's therapy. That's therapy. So we're just going to leave it at that. We're talk about a couple things. Where are my slides? Nothing that I want to talk about first. We're actually going to jump right into elections mayhem, which apparently it's spelled with an E, and I didn't like that either. Almost. But thank God for correcting spelling on the slides. Hang on, let me get to this media here. It's not looking right. Here.
There we go.
That's not looking right either. That's why this is a Saturday show.
Yeah.
All right. Bam. HD. All right. So, Amos, you're going to lead us in on a discussion about the midterms and what happened and kind of the post-midterm blah and where we're at and your feelings. And Laura Livengood, you're going to chime in with some AOC things, correct?
Uh-huh.
And then
Yes.
love to hear what everybody in the audience has to say. Hey, TC and Trisha, about their feelings on the midterms. Take it away, Amos.
All right. Well, I just wanted to cover the debacle about the post-elections and And to me, why is this so important? There's two things to it. One is that the election integrity in the public's eye and how we view the elections is crucial to democracy. If we lose faith that the system can work, then basically all bets are off. So it's extremely important. And the president and Rick Scott and others have been chipping away and attacking the idea of the integrity of the elections, which I feel is frightening. The other thing is it's important for people to know that their votes will count. So if you go somewhere and your vote isn't counted for an arbitrary reason, it came in too late, or it's like in a wrong box or whatever, you may think twice before going to the voting booth the next time around. You might figure, well, if it's this haphazard, it's not that important. So for that reason, it's extremely important what is happening in the aftermath of these elections. And I'm with Stacy about the idea that it's not about an individual candidates or race. It's about the integrity of the vote. And I think she's made a very strong speech. I recommend everybody to watch her speech. It's I believe it's 12 minutes. It's going to be in the description, the link. So everybody should watch that. It's a very powerful speech.
Agreed. And it wasn't a concession speech, correct?
Correct. She did not concede to it because, she explains it in the video. So
right. So, do you feel that the what we're seeing here in voter suppression is one-sided, or do you feel that it's kind of a bipartisan effort?
No, it appears to be very one-sided. We've not had any instances of voter suppression on the Democratic side at this point, and you just wonder if that's something that a party wants to associate itself with, like not having everybody who can vote is kind of says something about you if you have to rely on that to win.
So, Florida. I'm just going to bring that up, and Broward County and Tim Canova, and I'm going to say that's not the only instance, and I'm going to say it's really hard for the Dems to stand up for election integrity when you have Dems rigging elections. I mean, come on.
Well, the thing is, they're not rigging elections, and that's why I decided to cover this area, because there's so much going on. It's very hard for the average person to just keep track of all these stories, these news stories, and a lot of them are inflated and wrong. And
all right,
so I decided to pick a couple of these, a few of these issues to make sure that everybody understands and can hold their own in a conversation about it. So there was a story about a lost lost ballot. I believe it was a Broward County thing, and they found a ballot box inside of a truck, and it was a big brouhaha about that. The thing is that there were no ballots in that. There was office supplies and some empty ballots, which is not great, but it's far from being like compromise of actual ballots. So that story made its circles. It sounded awful. And you see the picture there of Ms. Snipes, who's the chair of the election board in Broward County. She got a lot of heat, and probably rightfully so, because they messed things up left and right. None of these were like serious issues that could have accounted for a lot of votes. For example, they found a number of mixed in votes that were supposed to be disqualified in a pile that was supposed to be counted, but it sat in a machine. It was not counted yet, and there were 20 ballots out of a pile of 209 votes. So it's not like the entire results of the Broward County should have been tossed out because of that. It's unfortunate, but it would not have changed the election results. And then there was another story about the cure form, which is a form that is sent to people whose signatures don't match exactly the signatures on the ballot. And they're supposed to correct this issue before the term of the election date. For some reason, Democrats decided to extend that. I guess they thought more people would bother sending them in if the deadline was extended, but it was not up to them to extend that deadline. So basically, a lot of people didn't make that the correct deadline to correct their signature, to address the signature issue. Again, it was like completely conflated with having ballots sent after the election date, which was not at all the case, and very different from the actual fraudulent activity that was recorded that where Republicans in various places have put in the past the day after election day as a day to return mail-in ballots.
All right, I'm going to stop you there because I just want you to know that the audience disagrees with you wholeheartedly. So do I. And that there's so much more evidence than what you're reporting, and that the Broward County issue wasn't one box. And really, I'm just going to say, I'm surprised. I'm going to be happy to pull up some information, and maybe we can cover it again next week, and I'll show you some other reporting. The Intercept has covered it. Lee Camp has covered it. Democracy Now! Has covered it. I disagree with you wholeheartedly on this assessment. The Democrats are absolutely 100% suppressing the vote in their own way. They're just not as outrageous about it as the Republican Party is. And they're absolutely 100% hypocritical. If they're going to try to call election integrity, they're not doing anything about election integrity. Not doing a fucking thing. So I disagree with you on this. But let's move. Let's beyond the. I mean, I'm just going to say this. You can absolutely counter, but we could move beyond the concept of integrity. We don't have election integrity in this country. We have shit voting machines. We have a shit process. We have nothing that is streamlined across. We don't have. It should be easy. In every other fucking country, it's easy and it's pretty goddamn accurate. So we don't have a good system, and it's corrupt all around. Would you agree to that?
What I'll agree with is not that it's corrupt necessarily, but that it definitely requires a lot of infusion. It needs an updating, and Democrats have tried to increase funding for election machinery and other, but that has been blocked mainly by Republicans at this point. I think it does require a lot of attention, and the fact that we have different laws and regulations in each locale and different machinery and everything is so different. In one way, it's a bad thing because it's hard to keep all on the same level and working perfectly. On the other, it may be to the advantage because it's harder to hack. Because if everything was on the same system, you could have, if somebody managed to hack one system, they'd be able to affect everything. In this case, they can do it more spot-wise, if at all.
That's an assumption. And as somebody who's involved in technology, I will say that if a hacker can take 13 seconds, a 13-year-old hacker can take a couple minutes to hack one of our election machines, not going to be a problem for hackers statewide to hack their own election machines. I mean, that's an interesting state. We need a unified system. Do you not think a unified system would be better? And whether it's electronic or not, I'm okay with paper ballot. And I'm also okay with those ballots being counted right there on the spot and recorded. To me, that would solve a lot of the problems. We don't need them trucking around. We saw pictures of these ballot boxes going into personal cars. There was a lot more evidence of bullshit in Florida than just one empty box. Okay, so if we're not traveling these things around, if we're not giving people the opportunity to fuck with them, we're just counting it on the spot. Everybody agrees, records it, and we're done. That might really help a lot. I mean, Oregon system, mail-in ballot, it's done. There's not a lot of fraud or suppression going on up here. You know.
I absolutely the technology of it is due a rehaul. That's for sure, and we're at the stage where we're using antiquated methods to deal with elections where we could have done much better.
Agreed.
I don't know if I would unify the system. I would rather unify the monitoring or the security monitoring of it, and make sure that it's more complete and organized. But
interesting. So let's bring Laura into this and see what she has about election integrity, and then let's wrap it and move into the wins, because it wasn't as horrific, I think, as media makes it out to be. Right, Laura? What do you say about this? Besides being sorry.
Well, because I was talking to Amos before, saying that I'm in high tech PR and with cybersecurity companies, and I go to big conferences where they are totally two-factor authentication, bank grade, fast. Every time I go through one of the check-in processes just to get my badge, when it's all right there and it's fast and it's easy and it's verifiable and it emails you after and it has to be you and all that type of stuff. It's that all that technology is available and it's there. They don't want it to be there. We saw that with, was it Place a Vote or Trust a Vote, or the place that was trying to do the bank grade mobile voting and stuff like that, and that's just getting blocked. So it's not. I don't think it's a question of whether or not we have the technology to have it be absolutely perfect and verifiable. We're going to get locked, at every turn on that, because the way it is now suits who it's benefiting, right? So, I mean, I did mine paper ballot, dropped it off at, at my ballot station, but I don't know what happens to it after that. Does it get counted by another machine that is questionable? Who knows?
Good question.
Anyway, a rambling, answer, but that's when I think about it. I just think how easy it could be for it to just be everyone just moving through and all automated. I had to go to the DMV this week, and I was dismayed when I got there and there was a line of 25 people, but they have this thing now in the DMV. The first thing you have to do is go to a computer and enter in everything that you want to do, like to renew your driver's license. And I'm fast as shit, on something like that. I was in and out of there while some of the less computer literate people were still trying to kind of struggle through that. So I think as our voting population ages with people who are used to doing things by computer and can do so glibly, we might see a shift over in how the technology is used. But right now, it doesn't suit anybody for voting to be easy or fast or secure.
If I may just address what you raised up earlier, regarding those things, I've tried to follow each of the reported things that I could find regarding the recount in Florida, and researching that, I really every time that I found something that sounded horrible and I really delved into it, it turned out to be just a paper tiger. So I didn't see any major things, and the lawsuits really are the indicative thing, that because those are the things that may have some substance, and the ones that were you'll have also a link to the Herald, Miami Herald, that lists all the different suitcases, the lawsuits that are involved here. So you'll have a better grip of what's real and what's not. Also, regarding Arizona, I wanted to mention that this whole thing with Trump blasting about fake votes and people going into the election booth disguised, doing so several times, and all the weird allegations about fraud and how Democrats were twisting things and creating major fraud. None of it has made any sense. But in Arizona, he started saying the same thing, and in the race between Sinema and McSally, and the governor there, as well as McSally, shut it down very quickly. They did not go along with that, as opposed to Rick Scott that took
Really?
the lead on. Yeah, they basically rejected Trump's assertions, and Trump kind of quieted down on that. And that race, as a result, was much less controversial, if you will. And McSally eventually conceded, and we went on to normal life with that. But it's an interesting contrast of one state that chose to oppose Trump's rhetoric and another that just took it and ran.
I think that's a perfect example of what's effective, right? Because if you shine a spotlight on Trump's statements, then you give them fire and you give them validity and you help them reach his masses. If you shut it down, then you shut it down.
But the only people who could shut it down were people from his own party.
True.
In other words, the governor and McSally herself. If some Democrats would have done that, nobody would have listened to that.
Well, there's another entity that could have shut it down as well, but they choose to use these opportunities for ratings as opposed to telling truth, right? Mainstream media, including Fox News, could have chosen to say he's full of shit, right? They could have said that, but they didn't. So it's a good thing that, like you're saying, the Republican Party did that. I didn't realize that happened. That's really surprising. Are there any other wins that you thought, or losses that you thought were key or important during the midterms?
Well, of course, we all wanted to see Beto O'Rourke win in Texas, and we wanted to see Stacey Abrams win in the governorship in Kansas, in Georgia, and so forth. Of course, we had some people who didn't make it, but it's on the whole, I think it is still a blue wave after all, and I think it positions Democrats much better in the next election, especially progressives, because it showed that even in red states, particularly in red states, progressives were more likely or more successful than middle of the road liberal would have probably been, and that opens the door for going more full throttle at places like Texas and Pennsylvania and so forth.
I agree with you there. And I just want to say real quick to everybody in the audience, I saw your discussion. You're having a great discussion. You have great questions for Amos, but we're not going to get into them right now because this isn't really about dissecting Amos's feelings on election integrity. All right. This is just talking about what's going on, and it's interesting that we have varying perspectives. But that's another thing I learned about the other day, so we'll talk about that later. Laura Livengood, anything you want to add on this conversation, or are you just hanging out in chat and having a good time?
I'm actually chatting with Marcus and Slack. But
all right then, never mind.
And in chat, I'm kind of doing my usual multitasking.
Awesome. And I do want to say, I mean, listen, we're here just to discuss this stuff. I learn from Amos, I learn from Laura, I learn from you guys. Mm-hmm. So Amos's opinions on things, our opinion on things, this is just us discussing it. This is part of what makes democracy, right? I saw a post from, and just on that real quick, because this is happening, and then we'll move into, if you got any other people you want to talk about, Amos. I saw a post from a guy named Sam Stein. I'm not really sure whether he's a progressive or a centrist or whatever. I don't know who that guy is, all right? But his post was basically slamming the Democratic Party, right? Saying we just had midterms and the Democrats are busy infighting about whether Nancy Pelosi should be the leader and whether this person's good enough or that person's good enough, and really isn't really what we should be doing. And I'm like, bullshit. That's exactly what we need to be doing, okay? That's a functional party. When a party is looking inward and going, what stinks? What do we need to address? What do we need to deal with? And who in this fucking party isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing? That's exactly what democracy is. And I'm sorry, but I don't think Nancy Pelosi is a good leader. And we, almost disagree with me. And other people disagree. There's reps that are saying Medicare for all and I support Nancy Pelosi, which makes no fucking sense whatsoever to me. All right? But, the bottom line is that's where we're at. These discussions have to happen. if we want a Democratic Party that responds to the people, then the people have to get aggressive within the party, right? And it's uncomfortable, and it doesn't look right, and it's violating decorum. Oh gosh, right? There are kids in cages and children being bombed to death in Yemen because of our inability to run a democracy. Okay, that's the bottom line. We suck at our democracy, our leaders are evil, and we have to fix it by looking inward and seeing what sucks about our own party and fixing that.
By the way, you mentioned Saudi Arabia and Yemen. I'm looking forward to what's going to happen in the House in January, because Nancy Pelosi has actually vowed to interfere and stop this insanity. And we'll see what happens. But I think she's going there. She's too public about it not to do that.
You mean, so that, if I understand what you're saying, she's going to stop the military-industrial complex from making a shit ton of money off selling weapons to Saudi Arabia.
Well, that's what she's said. So we'll see how far it goes. But I'm certainly hoping that the current climate, especially after the Khashoggi death, is changed sufficiently to make that leap.
I'm right there with you. I agree. Especially, Laura?
I think that Nancy getting elected to speaker is the last gasp of the centrist, new lib government, congratulating itself that yes, we're still viable. But I think where we are is in the junior level, where we're not ready to take over Speaker of the House. I think a couple more years of Nancy as Speaker of the House, with us putting her feet to the fire for things, just like almost like you just said, the promises that she's made. She's getting pushed to the left. She was forced to kind of acknowledge Alexandria Ocasio's activism about climate change and saying conciliatory things, and everybody's watching her now. Everybody is. She's back. If she is back as Speaker of the House, she's going to have so much more accountability than last time she was.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that in a way, the way I see it is during this time before the next election, she will definitely be removed, and I hope with a progressive, replaced with a progressive. But up until then, let's face it, the Democratic Party is not going to be legislating much. It's going to be leveraging its power and blocking things and trying to change things in their direction. But it's not.
It's going to be Republican light for another couple of years.
Right. So either way, I don't think it's crucial at this point. I think she's kind of earned her bread. She's I think a lot of the strategies that she's put forth into these elections have paid off. And I know, John, you disagree with that, but I think that she had done a lot of work to get the House Democrats elected. And I don't see it as the end of the world of continuing another year or so with Pelosi.
Well, maybe. We'll see. I hope she's gone. As Barbara says in chat, Pelosi won't even ever say Medicare for all. She's just so far from what we've asked Dems to be. But I agree. If she wants the fucking spotlight, then we're going to turn up the heat. And if Nancy can't take the heat, then she's going to get out. And that's we're seeing that happen, and that's. To me, that's the silver lining of the blue trickle, is that we've realized that I think we've realized that the power and the strings are underneath and not at the shiny top that everybody looks at in the national spectrum. And so we're going after the power plays, and
Nancy may have had some strategy in there, but I don't agree that she really helped some of the progressives get elected on the Democratic ticket. She did nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
She did nothing for AOC.
Yeah.
She did nothing for any of the true progressives. She helped her Dem buddies.
Yeah.
Basically. But again, it's not about Pelosi, it's about us. Right, Amos?
Right. Exactly.
You want to cover any of the other races, or are we done with midterm slog?
I was just I wanted the very for Amos.
Yeah, I was asking Amos. You got anything?
I've covered what I wanted to cover.
Great job. Thank you for going over that. I appreciate it. And Laura, you wanted to talk just a little about AOC?
Yeah, just my slide 10. Just our friend Alexandria, who we have interviewed many times here, and we think she's pretty amazing. This is her freshman orientation to Congress this week, and she made quite a splash. If you're on anywhere on social media, you heard everything about what she was wearing, to trying to find an apartment, to having a sit-in outside of Pelosi's office, trying to get a new climate agenda, really standing up and making it count. And so all kinds of feedback on that, as you can imagine, from every angle, some of it to like, sit down and know your place, to, bravo for you for going in there, guns blazing and doing what you said you're going to do. And I tend to be on the second side of that. The other side of that slide shows the actual graphic that they were putting up as a detriment to Ocasio and the other progressive members of Congress in the freshman class, about their radical new democratic ideas, such as free college for all, free healthcare for all, abolish ICE, and a Green New Deal. And we saw by the end of the week, Alexandria's getting votes for the Green New Deal. So there, I am very proud of her first week, and I thought she did great. And we need a bunch more of her in there. And that's the light at the end of the tunnel for me with what's going on, is getting more people like Alexandria in Congress.
I don't know if you've read this piece of news. There was some kind of not contention, but there was a disagreement in some of the panels. They were trying to. She basically came in and she wanted to start an environmental panel, and she had a little bit of opposition of people who were already there and said these things were already taken care of progressively.
Yeah. I have.
So she's feeling her way around. She will see.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that she's doing everything perfectly, but she definitely isn't sitting at the back. And a couple of tweets, like people kept pointing her to the, to the intern station or to the spouses events or something like that, not acknowledging who she was.
Right. Yeah. You've seen all those tweets about that shit, right?
Yeah.
It's insulting.
Exactly. Yeah.
My favorite though is the tweet where she says I wear regular clothes and they take a picture of my backside and say it's cheap. I wear nice clothes, they take a picture of my backside, say it's too expensive. Yeah. It's and they did. Some dude literally took a picture of her from behind and said, "Look at this outfit. That doesn't look like she's struggling."
It doesn't look like she's struggling. Like, yeah. Oh, he got ratioed so bad on that. It was really
unbelievable.
So she's made a splash. I think I'm proud of her, and I hope she keeps it up. And they're all the good freshmen are all hanging out together. They're the cool girls club, and I think they're going to do great.
Yeah, I love it. Disrupt everything, AOC. Yeah. Disrupt. Yeah. Those old fuckers need it. Disrupt them. And Jeff Pearson says that someone told me AOC should learn her job first. I said that is part of her job, and judge her on her performance.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Her job is to represent her constituents. She knows what her constituents want, and she's stepping in there and telling people.
Yeah.
So
there you go. And listen, on that with I don't think. Listen, I'm just going to say this, and it's not going to come across very nice. Both Nancy and Chuck are probably not going to be alive when we really need to be on it with climate change. Right? They're like, we're done. We're old. And the planet's done. I don't get any sense of urgency from Nancy or Chuck or Diane or any of the ancient fossils we have in our Dem Party leadership that we have 10 years to fix our government and implement a mobilization on climate, or we will have such an uninhabitable planet, it will be very difficult for us to organize and save our asses. That's really what it comes down to. When people say, oh, we have 10 or 12 years to get to do a plan. Yeah, but if we don't start that now, if we wait till year 10, we won't be able to do it. California is not going to survive a decade of these fires, right? Because it's going to go fire, then it's going to get floods, then everything is going to grow, then it's going to go to drought, then it's going to go to fire, and we're not even going to be able to rebuild this shit. We already have a refugee problem. We already have people that have moved from Katrina to Houston, and now out of Houston to who knows where fuck else, because they've followed the fucking super hurricanes. Right? We have a climate crisis fucking our country up right now. And we have Nancy Pelosi and other ancient leadership talking about compromise and how are we going to work together for unity on warmongering. And, no one is addressing the climate issue like the progressives. And that is the problem. If the Dem Party wanted to sign on to one thing, I know we've talked about Medicare for all, but how about saving the fucking species so that we can have Medicare for all?
Yeah.
I think saving the species ranks above everything else. And if we don't have a government that understands the urgency of this, that means replacing our government in time to implement change in time. So we don't have 10 years.
Yeah.
So I want to see the most aggressive fucking effort we can ever fucking make.
Yeah. I want Alex is my daughter's age. I am enormously comforted that she's going to be there in 10 years. She'll still be 10 years younger than you are now. It's like, she's
Yeah.
You're saying we shouldn't just replace fossil fuels. We should replace fossils.
Yeah, there you go.
All
Fossils
of them.
and dinosaurs.
All of them. Yeah. And I listen, that's not just age. That's thinking.
Yeah.
All right. We got some young assholes in our government that think like ancient fossils too, because they're into that. So, Bernie Sanders isn't an old thinker. Right.
No.
We worry about his health because he's older. Right. That's all. I don't worry about his mental capacity. He's still talking like a smart, he's on it. I worry about Diane, maybe, I think early onset dementia is hitting Diane and some other folks in our government. I worry about Chuck, who sounds just like a sweet old Jewish grandpa, really not effective doing anything leading a Democratic Party Senate. Just kind of, don't do that. That's Chuck. Ineffective. We got to replace these people because they're not serving us. Right? Their ideas are outdated. They're not interested in making progress. That's what it comes down to. Right. So, anyway, step up or step aside. Absolutely, Julie Love. Absolutely. Plenty of young brains supported Hillary. I know, but they were confused young brains. We have to deal with centrism. Centrism is a disease, and we will conquer it together. We will. All right.
Being taught by the older brains.
Yes. Great discussion, everybody. And I want to, again, when Donald Trump, leader of the Nazi Party, thinks Nancy Pelosi is a great leader and deserves victory, that should be the biggest indication to everybody in the Dem Party that Nancy Pelosi is not the person we should have leading in the House. Just saying. Okay? Take a hint from evil incarnate here. Right? All right. Now, one more thing. I want to ask, we're going to just have a quick chat on this. Jeff Merkley for president 2020. Amos, thoughts?
I don't know a lot about him. I know his position in some areas. I know I'm in favor of him rejecting subsidies for oil. I like his pro-choice positions. I don't know. I haven't yet really delved into his progressive side. I'd like to learn more about him. But the other person that's thrown his hat or may throw his hat into the ring is Bob Casey in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and I'd not heard of Bob. And you said Bob was what kind of a guy?
He's on the, let's say, on the right edge of progressive. He's pretty progressive. He had some issues with drug, the legislation that was spearheaded by Bernie to bring in drugs from Canada, allow drugs to come from Canada. He apparently opposed that. But on the whole, in terms of a lot of policies, he's pretty progressive.
Well, as we saw with Corey, my guess is if he really wants to run and expects a progressive sign-on, he's going to adopt that. He'll do something. He's got to do something with Medicare. Is he Medicare for all?
I believe he is. Yes, I think so. If I'm not mistaken.
Well, then if he's Medicare for all, he's for a solution that doesn't need to involve Canada, right? So.
Right. Well, medication is a different thing than healthcare, but
it would be medication would be included within the healthcare. That would be part of the negotiation process.
Hopefully,
you would. I mean, that's one of the biggest aspects of it, right? If they're not going to do that, then who gives a shit? Right?
But it's interesting. It's probably worth keeping an eye on all these progressives in red states, because that kind of like people like Beto and Stacey Abrams, kind of like show, or Gillum. They show how far they can get in red areas, which means that that could play very well on a national basis.
It could be. I'm laughing here. Laura, you can jump in a second, but I'm seeing everybody talk about what Marcus say. Almost don't let Jimmy Dore see how you wear your glasses, but I say everybody. I look the same. We all look a little bit like Chuck Schumer when we get older. Our glasses come down. It's just the way it is. Don't bag on us. We just don't have contacts.
So regarding Merkley, I think that if there's been one person in Senate who's kind of been there, supporting things that Bernie supports and having a good thing to say about our revolution, it's him. And he's got, and he was in the House of Representatives before. He's been in Senate since 2009, so he's got the experience. I think if he's got the charisma and the drive to really step up in front of all of us, then I support that.
All right. Well, I'm more down on Jeff than everybody else, but that's because I look at voter records, and it pisses me off that Jeff likes to talk a big progressive game, and I'm not saying he isn't. Okay, I think he's a good guy. Out of all the people we've got in upper levels there, I like Jeff. Okay, I think Jeff does a lot of good things for the basic Democratic Party. Do I think he's a progressive like Bernie? No. He votes for the military-industrial complex, right? He could have made a big statement with the recent votes on the military, right, where he's calling out, why are we sending troops here? Why are we bombing Yemen? Yet at the same time, he approves those budget increases. So it's like you're not walking the talk, dude. And what happens if you get put in a position of power where you talk a big game and then all of a sudden you're pulling an Obama? Right, and that's what I'm worried about, is Jeff Merkley being another really not progressive option. But again, what we've learned is that with Nancy, all it takes is us, the actual force within the democracy, putting pressure on that individual. Right, Jeff is probably playing it safe. It's like, I can't run for office and not support the military. That just doesn't happen in the United States of America anymore. So, Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna, and like 5 other people voted against the recent military increase. That's it. Yeah. No, anyway, I'm with you guys. Jeff, maybe, whatever. I just don't want anybody in the way of Bernie. What? Yeah.
Now Bernie's still my choice, but if there's anybody else that's currently in Senate that's lined up and has the experience, we need to see where he'd get his money from. Yeah. And how he continues to vote.
And if Bernie were to endorse Bob Casey or Jeff Merkley, I would just say, all right. Not the same to me as like a Hillary endorsement, right? Hillary endorsement was totally a fall on my sword. Signed a deal with the devil to do that.
It's like, please don't endorse me.
Yeah, that one I would never endorse a centrist tool like that again. No. So and Bernie, Bernie's smart that way. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I see that. I love everybody's talking. By the way, a lot of us wear our glasses like that. Apparently, does everybody in chat talk? That's awesome.
I still have monovision contacts, so I can see close with this eye and far with this eye.
That's crazy.
And I don't have to wear glasses except when I'm reading in the dim light.
That's crazy that even frickin' works.
I know.
I know. All right. The last few minutes of this show, we're going to talk about what happened with Uphill Media and the realization I've come to really about what needs to happen. Thanks to Laura and Amos and Larry and Marcus and everybody that is still involved in the volunteer operation. I've realized what we're not. When we started as Bernie 2016 TV, my goal was to be a media network like NBC News. Right? Somebody's not covering Bernie Sanders like the news is supposed to cover Bernie Sanders, so let's do that. Let's make it just like the news. Let's put out that format. And we worked really hard on doing that. And we did a good job of covering Bernie Sanders with the technology and the resources we had. Mm-hmm. Things change. All right. I never left the mindset of being a media network, a traditional media network on the net. I want, we you've seen the stuff we did, when we did the real newsroom. I was very proud of that because it was very Walter Cronkite-ish, very Edward Murrow kind of stuff, and I was really into that. And yeah, I say I because I was the one sitting here trying to figure out what to do, and so a lot of this became a lot of swirled around me and stuff, and that's unfortunate in a lot of ways, because I needed to step back and take a look at what we were actually effective at and what we were actually successful at in our media operations. And things have changed within the arena of independent media a lot, right? And we've seen entities rise and fall in terms of their support and changed what they do. And Uphill Media is not a traditional media network, and we're not going to be NBC News ever. And we're not going to have shows like RT or Democracy Now! Or TYT. That's just not, we can, but those are not what we're effective at. All right. I had to accept that. And the midterm election coverage that we did, for as fun as it was a letdown, because none of our guests really showed. And it didn't really feel like we had the support of what I was looking for, this big, awesome support out there that we've been trying to garner from the United States, from the world, from the West Coast, whatever, right? And so I got butthurt over it. I really did. And so I needed some time to let the butthurt flow and really just feel what it was that was bothering me. And I thanks to Larry, who posted, he basically said that the nominating convention that we did, which I was really down on, I was like, why are we doing this? This is stupid. Nobody's going to pay attention. This is, we're not getting a big audience. That nominating convention shook the DPO. It pissed off the establishment in the DPO. It was an amazingly powerful event. And it was then that I realized that I was looking at this all wrong. All right. We know what our audience is. All right. We got to stop trying to be a traditional network. We affect change in Oregon. Larry and his tactics have affected massive change in Oregon. And it's not just Larry. It's a whole bunch of people working in Oregon. Oregon has a strong, progressive Democratic Party that understands how to work at the county level to get shit done. Right? And they've been doing that. And we've been reporting on that. Our audience is the DPO. That's it. That's it. Our target is the DPO. All right? Our enemy is the corruption within the DPO. Our network is a badass weapon. We can do all sorts of things. We can have a nominating convention. We can give people airtime. We can create reporting. And we can direct all of this to our audience. Now, I'm not saying you guys aren't the audience. We have a nice family here and you guys are supportive. But now I understand what our target is. Because there's 500 people that make up the assembly, right? The SEC assembly, roughly 500-ish people, right? That's a target that I can drop media on, that I can inform, that I can push narrative. You understand? That's a reachable target, and we know who they all are. We know who the entire DPO is, so I can target just the assembly. I can target just a committee, right? That's how we are effective. And because we have a supermajority in Senate, and we have a supermajority in the House, and we supposedly have now a great set of, I don't even know what the other thing, there's a third thing that I can't even think of right now. We have Democrats owning Oregon, except for a few people in the way like Peter Courtney. We have empowered the assembly. Larry has been doing that with Standing Rule 13, which is going to take power away from the DPO, the power to withhold resources of the DPO. We are going to take that away from the corrupt admins and put it back in the hands of the assembly. That is huge. It's not national news. It's not big spotlight. It's not talking about Nancy Pelosi, but it is huge for progressives in Oregon. And we need to be the network that shines a light on that, right? That's tactical ops media. Tactical is a word that a lot of people throw around every day. Pundits love to use that. Tactical, rah, 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 rah. What it actually means is implementing a plan or an operation for the purpose of something down the road. We're thinking ahead. All right. So the things that we're going to do with media are about direct actions that are going to have an impact now for a plan down the road. Okay. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Right? We've taken power from the establishment through our actions in the last couple of years here. We really have. And we're a powerful force of change within the DPO. And that's what we're going to continue to be. So no more trying to do these big fancy shows. That's not what we are. We're going to create very specific targeted media to inform the DPO and to root out the evil within the DPO. So I'm excited about that. Thoughts, feelings?
Right on. I think that's where we've been heading.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. And
I don't see the conflict about spreading it as wide as possible, as well as targeting the specific audience that you're.
Well, so I don't have a problem with you coming on the Saturday show and talking about global news. I think that's fine. I'm just not going to work my ass off to produce shows with volunteers around that. We don't even have the volunteers to do that. That's all I'm really saying. Right? Like the Washington show and the California show and all these shows were fun and they were great and we the people. I don't want to put my energy into those anymore. The goal, and this was something we all forgot. When we created the nonprofit, the goal was to raise enough money to get me help, to get me out of my garage. But it was all centered around me. Why? All right? There's no reason to do any of those things, to raise all these sums of money, to build this kind of network if we're not going to be some kind of a traditional media network. We can target the DPO and be just as effective with me in this box without raising a lot more money, right? That to me is like, what's more effective? What's more important here, whether I'm in an office with a big network or whether we're attacking the DPO and making change, right? So I'm not opposed to doing other things, but I am no longer going to put my energy into We the People. I'm not going to put my energy into finding crews to do shows because I would much rather create targeted media actions. All right? So Amos, if you did a special report on something that was a target media action, great. I would chop that out and use it. Right? I'm just going to be looking at very specifically at what actions we need to take with regard to media that are effective, instead of going, well, as a media network, we would do a big coverage of this, and then we would do a fundraiser, and then we would do a coverage of this. That's the wrong way to think. I need to think about we're in a war, we're a special ops team, we have a limited amount of time to affect change, or we're all going to die. And that really puts a different perspective on how you operate, you know? So that's where I'm at. And I don't say any of those things lightly. We have a limited time frame. We're all going to die. This planet will be uninhabitable before I should die. Okay? And I'm 48. That frightens the fuck out of me. It should frighten the fuck out of everybody. That drives my will to change the DPO. But I had to find where we were effective. And we're effective there. So thank you all for bearing with this butthurt time. We've moved on. And I thank everybody that's still here. I mean, geez, Amos, Laura, Marcus, everybody in chat. You know, you're the reason we're still here. So thank you for your support.
You're welcome. Yeah. This is my war work. You know, I've been supporting this channel for a long time now, and
I know you have.
Yeah, it's.
You're going to write it off finally this year because it's an official nonprofit.
Yes, I totally can. I just realized that. Every month, the nonprofit. Hey, tax time. That's going to be sweet.
Yeah. See.
I'll pledge you some of my tax return.
Thank you. Everybody else. No, seriously, that's you know, I see this. We've evolved, and I love that. It just keeps evolving and changing, and having Amos here, and I just I feel good about it again. I feel good that we've morphed into what we are. So, yeah. Well, thank you, Natural Progressive. Appreciate that. Yes, UHM is family.
Be nice to have another girl on cam.
It would be, yeah. I all about that. I'm not going to be doing all of the things that I've been trying to do, like recruit and promote and all that stuff. I'm really going to focus on the internal mechanisms, the actions that need to happen. If there is somebody that wants to work with us as a volunteer, info@uphillmedia.org, get in contact with us. We're happy to work with you. We're always looking for new people. We've had a very, very small, dedicated, wonderful group of volunteers, and we're always looking for other people that want to get involved. But I will say this, I don't chase. So if you say you're going to volunteer and you jump in, it's up to you to speak out. It's up to you to get in touch, be active, because I'm not going to be like, hey, I thought you said you were going to volunteer. Like, if you're not there, then I'm not, we don't have, in other words, we don't have a volunteer coordinator. Somebody that's, come on. We don't have that. It's up to you.
We used to.
We used to when we tried to be a fucking traditional network.
Well, we had when we had 400 people.
Yeah.
We needed someone to step up and coordinate things. We had great coordination on that.
We did.
We don't have 400 people anymore. This reminds me of 2 years ago, right after Trump was elected. We kind of went dark, at the beginning, and then came back with the Awake Show, and then that's when you got involved with the local Oregon politics.
Yes.
And that's been the basis for a lot of the stuff that we have done. Remember, it was a year ago when we did the thing in Portland, and I came up and when we channeled Nina Turner, and that was So it's just been interesting to see it move in that direction. And I think that since you've got a good crew there, and you and Ashley and Larry there in Oregon, it just makes sense.
It does.
But I really like the continuity of doing our Saturday show. I look forward to it. It's
Me too. We'll continue. Thank you, everybody. So many great comments in the chat. I appreciate that so much. Schultze, Nashville, Jeff, everybody. John is no Jim Acosta. Fuck no. Jeez.
And thank God for that.
I one question for Jim. You and Julian should be right there. Simpatico, right?
Right. One of the biggest the tweets I saw was like, okay, Jim Acosta lost his press pass for a few days, and Julian Assange has been held, against his will for 8 years. Who is being painted as the bigger martyr in MSM?
That's a great question. Yeah.
I would love, charge Julian, bring him here, let him testify. Wouldn't that be great? And don't you think WikiLeaks has a lot of things waiting in the wings for just, such an occasion?
That's going to be.
I'm wondering if they're planning on some sort of quid pro quo with him in regards to the Mueller case.
Seriously?
Could be.
I wouldn't put it past it. I think it's possible.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Not because I want to see the Mueller thing.
Everything. He's got everything,
Well, but
lay it all out.
It's like, I don't care about the Mueller investigation. I just want to see Julian Assange be done with his bullshit, and the United States government hasn't even charged him with anything. It's just like, the Mueller investigation, if that's what they want, if they want to make that real, then great. Take what you make a deal with Julian. That's great.
I would love to see Julian under oath before a committee in Congress. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah. Everybody see the problem. We'll talk about this another time. Everybody see the problem with the Mueller investigation. It's not that it's not necessary. It's not that there isn't corruption. It's that the corruption links everybody at the top. Everybody. And so you've got all these players going, you can't, that has me in it. No, you can't because that has me in it. Well, we owe this person, and if you do that, these people will die, and you can't. That's what's happening here. All these people, the rats on the ship of corruption at the top, are like really working their ass off to see who is actually going to have to go down in this charade. Right? It says, who are we going to kick under the bus, and who gets to live in this freaking thing? I guarantee you that the people that go down, none of them will matter. None of them will matter. There will be nobody who gets charged or serves time or gets, that nobody will actually face real charges and be served anything that actually should. None of them. That's how this works when you have a government this corrupt. Right? That's the negotiations that are happening right now between the FBI and the Republican and Democratic Party, is who actually gets kicked under the bus. So we'll see. We will see. And yeah. Anyway, all right. I wanted to show you guys one more thing. Peter Courtney is facing a problem. This is part of that Oregon power that we have. The Senate Democrats have an 18-12 supermajority. That's what I was talking about earlier, 18-12 supermajority. And This is one of the things that pisses me off the most. Peter Courtney, we ran Joyce Judy against him, in a lame attempt to at least shake the tree. And Peter actually had to, borrow some of the millions and millions of dollars out of the campaign funds to actually run a campaign this time, where he didn't before, because he's just been sitting there collecting dust. But what should piss every Oregonian off the most about Peter Courtney is this. I didn't even know this existed. This is the most bullshit thing I've ever heard about in democracy. Courtney, who was elected Senate President in 2002, has typically barred legislation from a vote on the floor unless a pre-vote count indicates it's guaranteed to pass. All right? In some cases, he is required the support of at least one Republican. Some Democrats have said the practice has made the Senate more moderate than the House, and it's obviously more moderate. House passes a shit ton of progressive legislation. The Senate, through Peter Courtney, ditches all of that legislation. Okay, but has stymied Democrats' ability to hold a vote to put certain senators on the record as a no. See, what happens is when you don't hold these votes, you don't know which of our senators are bought and sold. Like Peter Courtney. What a great way to stop democracy from happening. We're just not going to let Senate vote on any of these because of some bullshit rule that one old dude came up with. All right? I don't understand. How did anybody come up with this shit? That's corruption right there. So here's what's happening. So former state rep Shamia Fagan D. Clackamas is believed to have unseated long-term senator. But what? I got that. Okay, so what's happening? I didn't catch it in this piece. Is that the Senate Democrats with a majority have basically told Pete, you're going to get rid of that rule, or we're going to get rid of you. All right. Pete has a choice. Of course, where is it? Here. In this slide, you'll see that they just re-elected to the Senate Majority Office. Senator Pete Courtney is the leader of the Senate Democrats elect leadership team, whatever the fuck that means. Okay. You also see there that Valdez Bravo is having a good time at the reorg for Clackamas County because reorgs are where we retake our power. All right. The point being, Peter Courtney has no interest in serving the 99%, and he's now facing a coup because we have enough Senate Democrats who have come to him and said, you need to not do this anymore. This bullshit. So this is the kind of thing that we can do as a special media ops team and drive home. We can pound Pete on this. We can create media that just shines a giant spotlight on the fact that this is the most undemocratic thing in the Senate I've ever heard about. And make sure that he either changes it or we get rid of him. Even if it, and he's not up for re-election for a whole another 6 years. That's what sucks about this. But we'll be ready next time. Right. So this is the kind of power, this is the kind of tactics we're talking about. All right. There's that Nancy Pelosi. Just again, Donald Trump support of Nancy Pelosi. I just want everybody to see that. Lastly, we did have a conversation with Lee Camp yesterday. And it was a good conversation. And it was another piece of the puzzle that reminded me that we are not RT News. And we never will be. We're never going to have those resources. We're never going to be able to do what they do. And just in my conversation with him, it was very clear that he is looking at a national stage, and he is, in his mind, he sees the movement. He's like, I know we've got, the censorship is horrible. He says, I see power being used and taken and building within the indie media movement, and that's good that he sees that at that level. Right. We're definitely rising. We're definitely growing. We're definitely fighting censorship. I still think we need to get off the internet and focus more on local channels. But hey, I'm going to work on that just in Oregon, just with the DPO. Right. And that's something that we can manage. So thank you, TC. I appreciate that. Thank you, Natural Progressive. Yeah, it was all right. He definitely wanted to get out of there at 40 minutes exactly.
Oh, yeah.
I told him it was going to be a 40-minute interview. And at like 39 minutes and 50 seconds, he's like, okay, guys, well, I got to go now. And I'm like, I know. I said I'd keep it to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
We had a good time, though. And he was a great, had a good discussion in the green room. And Yeah, it's cool. So I
And
told.
his comedy special sounds great. So
Oh, yeah.
everybody, and the code, so it's leecampcomedyspecial.com, I think is where you go. And if you use a promo code, he said Uncle Sam,
Is that what it
all
was?
one word,
I didn't hear
you
him.
get 25% off. So it's like $4 or whatever. I think he was a little dismayed at the small numbers that we have watching at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Friday, which is the only time he was available. We could have got him a lot more in the evening,
That's
dozens
all right.
more. But
was busy.
it'd be nice. It'd be nice if he got some views of his comedy special, because he really goes a lot into depth about the things we were actually talking about him, about climate change and election integrity and things like that. So, and it was a pleasure to watch. Watch you interview him. He definitely knows how to do it on his side. So that's a plus.
Yeah, it was
well
really
done.
easy.
I thought it was really good. I thought you guys said a lot of great stuff. I was impressed. So, wish I could have been there, but I was leading a meeting.
Yeah, I know. Working for the
At
boss.
moment, I really could not slip out of that to go broadcast it.
Working for the man, actually working for the woman.
Yeah.
Your group of ladies there. So I understand.
Yeah.
All right. We almost made it to just an hour. Just one.
Yeah.
One
We're
last.
doing good.
Yeah.
We're doing good.
Doing good. We'll get out of here. One last thing. I just saw this. This made me laugh. Unicorn Riot's one of those media organizations that's been doing a good job. It's still, they're out there. They're able to do a lot of live coverage, and I think that's great. They did a lot of good live coverage at Standing Rock. I don't know if you saw them, but this is, I don't know what this is, yesterday, earlier. Paul Chaitlin posted this in Facebook. Easily hundreds of Philadelphia police deployed to protect a group of about 12 attendees of the far-right Proud Boys rally scheduled for today near Liberty Bell in the city's historic district. So many questions about that. First of all, what grown men are okay calling themselves Proud Boys, and incels, which to me is just like the ultimate I can't get laid sticker ever. I just was surprised at this. I thought maybe the police were just there to attend because, Anyway, that's the state of our police. They definitely want to protect right Nazi movements, and they've spun the narrative to make it seem like Antifa is the enemy. And I want to fight that specifically in Oregon because Mayor Ted Wheeler of Portland seems to be a fan of the right-wing groups and a fan of clamping down on Antifa and the left progress. So I'm not a fan of Ted, and neither is the city council, which voted down Ted's recent proposal on protesting laws. So thank you, Portland City Council, for rising above Ted's assholery there. Appreciate that. Lastly, I don't have a card for this, but it's the song we're going out with. And I didn't open the song, so bad me. You get to watch me do that. Here. Mm-hmm. 1 second. All right, here you go. Hopefully this shouldn't block us out. This is a live performance video. You guys have heard about how the censorship of anything related to protest or patriotism or anything helping to fuel the revolution is being blocked out on YouTube more frequently. This song really struck me for a lot of reasons. It's by a band called First Aid Kit. They're just a duo. I think they're from Sweden, but I'm going to get that wrong. They're from up there. They did a song called Cedar Lane, and they're folk. And I first heard the song Cedar Lane, and I thought, who is this? It sounded like a young American folk group. They're not American at all. They're from Sweden or Scandinavia up there, and they're just an amazing duet, these young girls. And they covered, I think this is in 2014, 2012, this is a video, Paul Simon's America. And it's beautiful. It's amazing. And it just made me think, I think the whole world right now is looking for the America in Paul Simon's song. I'm looking for it. I don't see it. I see some people that embody that, but our nation is certainly not the America that I think Paul was thinking about. We're a horrific nation when it comes to how we act as a partner in the world. And I want America to be the nation that the song makes me think about, right? good people, a good nation, doing good things, instead of a warmongering nation, stealing resources and destroying the planet. Just a bit of a change. And I think we can make that happen together. It's just about finding your place, right? Where do we fit? Where do we work? And what works? And in a war, you got to set aside personal, my personal goal was to, have a big giant network of engagement broadcasting that took over and destroyed CNN. I'll live with a special ops network that makes the DPO something to be proud of. That's cool. So let's listen to this and think about the America we want it to be.
Let us be lovers, we'll marry our fortunes together. I've got some real estate here in my bag. Ooh, so we bought a pack of cigarettes and Mrs. Wagner pies, and we walked off to look for America. Kathy, I said as we boarded a Greyhound in Pittsburgh, Michigan seems like a dream to me now. It took me